Welcome to the Select Board meeting for December 12th, 2023. We have a full quorum. First item on the agenda is approving minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. New business. Consideration of request to amend the consent agreement for 402 Webbs Mills Road. Alex.
Good evening. I'm getting over a cold, so my voice is not what it should be, so I apologize in advance. So you guys have before you, or you should, the amended consent agreement. So to kind of get us back to where we left off on this, you guys had authorized Dawn to negotiate a consent agreement with the Starretts, and then shortly after that motion was made, Dawn went on FMLA. So we got Sue up to speed on where we were and had a meeting with Nicole, made some changes to the consent agreement, and here we are. So you see there is a letter from the Starretts that was in the packet. But essentially where we're at on this is we'd like to get your input on their request. Most of it's pretty basic stuff. I think the big thing is the fine amount, really.
How much do we have into this, Alex?
So this one's a little bit complicated because it was actually two separate situations. We had the violation, and then we had an appeal from the abutter. The abutter had sent us a letter essentially saying that they thought there were many more violations. They wanted the town to do something, and we said no. We felt that we had adequately addressed the violations. They appealed that no action to the ZBA, and so we actually ended up spending $2,312 on that, the appeal. So I had Bernstein Sure kind of break it out so that we weren't counting that as part of this because it was all referenced to the same property. The total ends up being $1,449 that was spent on the actual violation for the Starretts. Okay. So it's a little bit lower than what we had originally thought after they went and split everything out.
I got a question for you. In their letter to you guys, it's the second paragraph that talks about the premises was cleared in accordance with a timber harvest plan approved by state of Maine. Mm-hmm. What is the rule? Is it home rule?
Yeah, so that's probably honestly the most complicated thing in all of this because they got they did a timber harvest in I believe 2017, and at that point in time, our ordinance said you could not clear a lot by more than 25%, and that was it. One of the things I changed in 2021 was that section of the ordinance because 25% is not a lot, and in their particular case, they actually kind of fall under the amended ordinance, which now says you can't clear more than 25% unless you get site plan approval from the planning board, unless you are following the timber harvest rules under the state's forestry program, because we do allow that. So they actually did do this as a timber harvest. So if they were to do this today, they could do it. They would just have to get a code officer permit, which is really just us checking to verify that it is a legal harvest with the state.
Okay, but when you're talking timber harvest, to me, that is clearing trees, correct? Mm-hmm. Vegetation is all the stuff underneath with all that stuff. So that isn't the same thing as the harvest. I mean,
so the area that they had originally harvested ended up being half, it was half of the parcel, essentially. And since then, they've allowed most of that to grow back in. So the area now that is left that's not vegetation is probably pretty close to that 25% if I were to add it up. But essentially where we're headed with this is because they did a timber harvest, under the rules of today, all they need to do is get a code officer permit and they can exceed the 25% lot coverage as long as it's a legal harvest through the state, which it was.
Any other questions? So, yeah, the Starrett's asked for a fine of 1,000. We asked for 5,000. Everybody okay with kind of going in the middle at
2,500?
2,500?
I am.
I thought we kind of had authorized Don to.
Yeah, we did.
Get down into that figure anyway.
Right. So,
So I don't have a problem with that.
so Alex, you think you can negotiate 2,500?
Nicole is on Zoom. I don't know if she's
Oh.
in a position where she wants to speak, and I don't know if that's a conversation you guys want to have. If you guys are good with everything else, if she doesn't want to speak, Sue and I can contact her and we can see if that works. I just would like to try to avoid having to come back again next month
Right.
with 1,500 or whatever, a rebuttal or something.
Well, I mean, what we had done last time is we'd authorized town manager to negotiate.
Yeah.
2,500.
So I mean, if, Sue would take that on now and, I mean,
Nicole?
if there's a minor thing there, you can take that up with Joe.
Has Nicole seen this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Her only question was actually on the timber harvest thing as well. She was confused about that.
Okay.
Nicole, are you listening? Would you like to comment?
I am here. I appreciate you being willing to negotiate, although I would prefer it to be lower. Based on everything I stated in my letter, I understand your position, and if that's your limit, then the 2,500 is fine.
And
Okay.
I think we also said, we also had agreed at one point that we would take a payment plan on that.
Yes.
That was my question for you guys next, was if that was still an option for them.
So Nicole, if you accept the 2,500, we'll vote on it tonight, and you can work out a payment plan with Alex and Sue, if that works for
Okay,
you.
that's fine.
Okay?
Thank you.
Great. All right, can I have a motion then?
A motion to accept the administrative, the amended consent agreement for 402 Webb's Mills Road with the amount of the $2,500 fee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Oh, hold on. What are you guys gonna do about the sign? Never mind. No, I'm looking at something else. We're good.
Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Nicole.
Just
Thank you.
one other thing, Sue, there was a few things on there that we had to figure out as far as timeline.
Yes.
Do you guys want to weigh in on that? There's some time restraints on when they need to have this stuff taken care of. Do you guys have any opinions on that?
What do you mean?
To get the after the fact permits. There's some blanks on there. I mean, do you feel like 2 months, 1 month, 6 months?
Why don't you
Well,
work it out,
We
Alex?
can work
Okay.
it out.
Work on
All right.
that, because I mean, you're into trying to what's the
Yeah.
planning board's schedule and what.
Well, this actually will all come right to me.
Yeah.
It shouldn't need to go to the planning board at all at this
Right.
point. It's all
I mean,
just,
I just
In
did it.
your court.
okay, all right, we'll take care of it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Yep.
All right. Item 3B, consideration of consent agreement for East Shore Tavern. Alex,
Yes.
where are we?
So I'm sure you guys have seen the recent communications. Kyle's made quite a few significant changes from the last time he was here with barricading the parking lot. And we've had a couple of conversations since the last meeting, and he can get up to speak for himself as well. But the thought process at this point is to resolve the violation, we would need to do a consent agreement, similarly to what we just did with the Starrett's, that outlines what's happened and what the path forward is to keeping this resolved. And in my opinion, in our conversations, as long as that parking lot is blocked off from use, then I think it's fine to stay, dirt. It doesn't necessarily need to be revegetated as long as it's not used as parking. If he wants to use it for his own personal use to park a car or truck or whatever, then that's no different than the guy who lives back there parking there. So I think that's fine. I just think we would need to be clear in a consent agreement what that looks like. I did see that there was also a photo of the trash truck, I believe, that came in last week that showed them, I think, emptying the dumpster and then turning around back there, which, we probably should discuss that, because that's kind of part of this.
I mean, these really are permanent barriers to get back there.
Yeah, so on one side, he's got a couple of Jersey barriers with the chain, and then on one side, he's using the dumpsters to kind
But
of
the
act as
dumpsters are on wheels.
Yeah, so, and that's what I believe happened. I'm sure he could probably tell us, but it looks as though they picked the dumpster up and it may have shifted, or I don't know what exactly happened. But so that's something that probably should be figured out.
On the administrative consent agreement, Kyle doesn't technically own that property. He leases it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have it down as whereas the property owner. So who is this consent agreement going to? The leased person, meaning Kyle, or the actual property owner?
No, it would go to Kyle. He has sufficient rights, Kyle, or interest in this through that lease, as if he were renting or in some agreement with that property owner to get permits for stuff.
Okay.
That gives him enough interest to sign this consent agreement.
Okay.
I would think, at least.
So the consent agreement we have in front of us, we would need a whole new consent agreement. Correct? Because it talks about being seated and loaned.
No, so what I had the attorney do is essentially put in all of the options that we had originally discussed,
Yep.
so that there could be a conversation here about what the town feels is adequate to resolve this. If that's loaming and seating, then that's on there as an option. If that is not the option that we go with, then we can strike that on the final.
Okay.
But I wanted all the options at least laid out for
And-
discussion.
And if you wanted to have me sign it and authorize me to sign it, I can make those changes tomorrow, whatever's
Yeah.
decided.
Yeah, we have the Word document. so-
Otherwise, if you folks want to sign it, I can make the changes and print it right out back.
I don't think I have any need to sign it. But I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. So we're talking permanent, you cannot get back there. Yes or no?
So right now, the option that he would like to go with is what he has currently, which allows him to the chain, so we can open the chain and get through. But it's blocked off during business hours and everything, so that patrons of the restaurant don't go in and park there.
No
But-
parking signage, says it says.
And there is no parking signs. Yeah.
But the last time we said that, the no parking signs were blatantly up there, and people were parking back there. He put up Jersey barriers, and it was a thoroughfare.
Mm-hmm.
All the way, all the time. And we had big, like beer trucks going in there, Pepsi trucks going in
Yep.
there. So that chain can easily come down for anybody that wants to open it and go back there and drive out.
Yep. So I think in order for this to work, there needs to be something in here that says if that chain is taken down, or we notice that people are using it, that, it's back in violation again.
I guess I'm not okay with that because we've been back here several times and this has been going on for over a year. So to me, I guess I just want to get this on the right path forward.
Yeah.
And say either all the Jersey barriers go up right next to each other, boom, so nobody can go back there at all. The garbage cans are on this side, so there's not on anybody's property. I don't know as far as the delivery trucks. He's gonna have to figure that one out. But
I mean, the only issue I see though is you actually cut off access to his property. If he's renting it, it has no use at that point if you completely block it off.
Which
But-
is, yeah.
But on the other hand, is right now it's being used is my view.
As part of the commercial business.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's the goal with tonight, and that's why we're here, is to try and figure out, because ultimately, with the status of the liquor license, I want to make sure that you guys agree 100% with whatever the end result is here. And if that's that the board wants no use of that at all and it needs to be completely barricaded, then that's what the town's going to do.
Where are we at right now with one, the status of the liquor license, and two, the status, I don't remember if we approved or not the entertainment one at the last meeting.
That would be a
The
Sue
the
question.
liquor license, I still haven't heard from the state, and they're supposed to contact me, and they told me they would contact me to set up a time for a hearing.
And that
Okay.
license
A day no
expires
hearing.
January 20th.
While it's under appeal, it's still,
Yeah,
Right.
as I understand it, as long as it's under the appeal process, it doesn't expire.
What about the entertainment one? Did we approve that?
That, I believe that continues as well because it's attached to the liquor license, loose by law.
Okay, I didn't know.
I mean, I don't have big heartburn if that chain is, made a little bit more permanent so that he could either unlock it to go back there and park himself or whatever, but not for routine things. But either put another couple of barriers behind the trash cans so that the trash truck can't go back there or whatever. I think that 'cause that would allow him to go and park himself, his own vehicle back there, but not.
Is
But
there a
not
lock
commercial.
on that chain?
I don't know. You can ask Kyle that. I'm not exactly sure. But I think, I agree 100% on that. I think the photo from last week kind of exposed the crack in the current setup.
I mean, I could see how it could happen, but, as we're trying, if we're trying to separate that, then there's
Yeah.
no violations if they can't go back there.
Yeah.
But if you leave it so that, someone unaware goes back there and creates the violation, then that becomes an issue. So,
Yep.
so if you can address that, then I'm happy.
Okay.
I think one of the issues is those big trucks that come in there, like the beer truck or the garbage truck. It's much
Oh,
easier
yeah.
to turn around in that big space than trying to back out.
Yeah.
But
I
if
think
they,
were
if
looping
they,
around, but if one side's completely blocked off, like you're
Yeah.
saying,
Yep.
then they can't go around.
but I mean, if they, I think, that's a one-time learning experience. If they know that that's not what it is, they're
Yeah.
either gonna back in or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, trying to back in off 302 is not the easiest either.
Well, and looking how wide that chain is, who's to say someone's just not gonna come in and run that right through?
Well, yeah, but-
Maybe not as wide or something.
Any talk of a fine?
well, do we have any legal fees?
We do. I haven't gotten the total number, from Bernstein Sure on this one. I mean, I can get that if that's something you want to leave open. My guess is it's probably going to be similar to the stair. It's probably somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 is my guess.
Yeah, I'd just like to be made whole on that, that's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I just don't feel we had to get to this point. So,
And from Bruce's standpoint, have has it been back in and re-inspected on the grease and stuff like that? Is
I
that-
think, yeah.
There's-
that's-
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
Yeah,
There is a thing there that says that he wants it,
Well, that was the.
Made.
that was the
That was the
original.
old one, so I
Yeah.
just don't know if, Wayne, has that been re-inspected for the grease stuff?
oh, this is December 7th.
No, it hasn't, because it was 6 months from the date of the inspection, so that would put it into the beginning of March to do that inspection and see what kind of grease buildup there is, and if our temporary solution actually made things better for the business. So we're looking at March for the next scheduled inspection.
Okay, yeah, I just don't like fires, that's all.
Neither do we.
Okay. All right, well,
I
thanks.
have a question. Is that chain, is that one of those plastic ones? It looks yellow. The yellow ones are usually
It has a
plastic.
no parking sign on it, too.
There's two things. If it's plastic, I mean, it's not the end of the world. But if it's a regular chain, it should have some reflectors going across there because it is dark at night and it is a bar. You don't want somebody,
Yeah, Driving in.
snowmobile, stuff like that. People are getting really hurt on
Yeah.
chains that just go across unless
That's
it's
why I
plastic,
said
they're not gonna get
make
hurt.
it smaller, so where just a truck can fit through and not have it that wide. Do,
what's the truck that's parked on the property now?
That's his.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
was thinking about that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, so you know what we're after, right, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll leave it to you to make it so.
I think the biggest thing is just, like, this is the last chance. Like, we're gonna say yes, no parking back there. If this, is pictures are shown or something in commercial, then, you know, it's kind of like a 3 strikes and you're out. So I'm okay with the chain and all that, and being a little more lenient on where the Jersey barriers are and the things. But if there's trucks back there again, I think it's complete. You don't get. I don't know. Sorry, you don't get to use it, but it's kind of like your 3rd strike and you're out type of deal. That's just me.
Kyle, you have anything to say?
Always, I never miss an opportunity.
I know.
So the picture that you got sent there, that's from Casella Waste. Those dumpsters are not on wheels. They're not easily movable. What that truck did, I would imagine for ease of turning around, was they picked it up, dumped it, and set it off to the side. If you look at the photo, you can see where the dumpster was placed, and then you can see the tracks come in on the truck. And then he placed it off to the side, went in, turned around. I've spoken with Casella about that, let them know that that's not acceptable. Those are there in place the way they're supposed to be for a reason, and they assured me that that wouldn't happen again. Since we've put up the chain, those dumpsters in place, we haven't had traffic back there. I think if we did, you'd have photos from the neighbor that likes to make sure you're up to date on everything. So it is working. The only issue that I have with the consent agreement too, one would be the loam and seed. I don't think that there's a requirement in place for that to be back to loam and seed. Other than that, I'm fine with the consent agreement. I don't think that we should be looking at levying fines. Obviously, I'm opposed to that. This is a situation that was open-ended. It got kicked around a lot, but ultimately we came down to a solution. It's taken a little bit longer than I think that we all planned on it, but this solution is working. There's no trucks back there other than the trash truck that actually moved the dumpster. They've been spoken to. Alex says that, you know, he feels that what we've done back there is sufficient to keep things the way they need to be moving forward.
Is that your
There's a
truck?
requirement in place for that back to loam and seed.
What's that?
That's Wayne.
I think he's playing back.
Yeah.
Is that your truck?
It is, yeah, it's my dump truck.
Okay. And what do you think about putting Jersey barriers where those trash cans are?
I mean, at this point, I would like to use the dumpsters with the understanding, just because those Jersey barriers are not cheap, and then I have to have them delivered, and then I have to have equipment on site to move it around, which I've already done once. So I would like to keep that in place. You have a video camera on those dumpsters all the time. That guy is not shy about making sure that you see everything that happens down there. So if it was to happen again, you guys would probably be notified immediately. But I've been told by Casella that that's not going to be an issue.
Is there a lock on that chain link?
There is, yeah, on the side that comes over.
And it stays locked?
Yeah, yeah. The only person
Is it
that
plastic or is it?
The chain itself is plastic because it's safety yellow. I wanted to make sure, as you brought up,
Yeah.
that people would see it at night or even during the day, so they weren't trying to run into it. And you know, I check it every day. I've been down there on a daily basis, so we make sure that it's upright and the signs are in place and nobody.
For me, it's like 4-wheelers, snowmobiles. Somebody just probably shouldn't be there. That is, at
Yeah.
night can get hurt with.
Yeah, yeah, that's why we went with the safety yellow. I mean, we could have went with a metal, but again, I think that the yellow really made it's safer for everybody to make sure that they're not back. And then we hung the sign in the middle as well. So that sign's there. It says no trespassing. We have our no parking signs up.
So, Kyle, you left here at the last meeting, and you knew what we were asking of you, not to have people back there, correct?
I mean, yes.
And it's been constant traffic through there. So I would like to see the Jersey barriers go all the way across and have the garbage things on this side and have it blocked off. Because honestly, I am really afraid. I think sometimes you play on our words and we think that we know what each other is thinking. Like you left here the other night, a couple months ago, thinking that you were going to get the license and didn't get the license and all that went down. Mm-hmm. So I guess I just want to make sure that we are completely clear. And the only way to do that is put the Jersey barriers across there.
I disagree with that. I think that the solution that we have in place, and then the code enforcement officer is stating his opinion that he thinks that what's in place now is working. I think we're overreaching a little bit, to be completely honest.
I don't. We have a lot of pictures to show otherwise.
You have a lot of dated pictures, but you don't have any recent pictures other than the trash truck. And
From the last month. And you just put that stuff up recently, like within the last, what? Couple
after
weeks?
the last meeting that I walked out of here, I went with no guidance on how to take care of this, and I went ahead and I put the Jersey barriers in place. And I did everything that you suggested in the meeting prior was done.
You
So
left a big opening for people to be able to drive back in there. Even your beer trucks, your Pepsi trucks, all those are going through there. And you didn't know that they were going through there?
a lot of times they show up in the morning. So a lot of times my delivery are left by my cooler. So no, I'm not there. And once we realized with the pictures that they were there.
12,
we took-
11, yeah.
So Kyle, would you put a chain where those dumpsters are? Put a chain from that Jersey barrier behind the dumpsters into a post.
Yeah, I don't know if I can get in the ground. If the ground's good now, yeah, that's
I
not a
don't
problem.
think it's frozen yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to put a metal post
Instead of
there.
a Jersey barrier.
Yeah, like a yellow chain like
Yeah.
on the other side. Yeah, I have no problem.
I
with that.
think that could solve our solutions without you.
Is that Jersey? I don't know if you've seen these pictures, the ones that we have, but the ones to the left of the dumpster, is that the neighbors?
That's the
Jersey barriers?
neighbors, yep.
Okay. I was gonna say, because you slide that one over, but
No, those
you don't
are
own
yours.
that one. Yours are colored?
Yeah, I think they're red and yellow and green.
Okay.
So what do you guys think about, instead of another Jersey barrier, just put another chain with a lock on it
I'm fine with
Yeah,
that.
I'm fine
And that
with
garbage can,
behind the
On
gun?
the back side, so they
On
can
the
still
back
come in
side.
forward, yeah. and-
Right.
so, but even if the garbage guy comes in and doesn't see that chain and he breaks it,
He's already been made aware of the situation, and his route manager has spoke to him about what needs to happen there. So, I mean, I would assume,
If he breaks a chain, then he goes after Casella.
right, I'll have them
Replace
replace it.
and they don't change people that do the routes or anything like
I mean,
that?
it's beyond what I'm responsible for, so I really don't know.
Right. It'll be up to Casella to replace the chain.
it. Derek mentioned some reflectors or something on the chains.
Well,
We've seen at night.
Yeah, I was doing that. If these were, I had a friend in high school get hurt really bad on a chain that was
Yeah.
gone with no reflectors at night, and he went through. But being plastic, if somebody actually accidentally goes through there,
Yeah.
it's plastic. They're not going to get hurt. So it was kind of, mine was a safety thing.
So
If they run into a plastic chain at night, he's gonna have to go buy another plastic chain.
So
It's
Alex,
not me.
a chain as part of the consent agreement?
Yep.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
That kind of seals it off. And a lock on that chain, both sides.
Yep.
So only Kyle has the key. And as far as the fine, I mean, I'd like to at least cover our attorney's fees, $1,500. I mean,
Find out what
We gotta find out what it is.
find out what it is and just cover the exact cost on it, don't add to it. All right?
Could I read back what I have?
Yeah.
So motion to, and I formed it in the form of a motion,
Okay.
to authorize the interim town manager and code enforcement officer to work with Kyle Bancroft, owner, to apply a fine of exact cost of attorney fees,
Yeah.
add another chain with a lock to a post from the Jersey barriers behind the dumpsters, and agree on the timeline for the consent agreement.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're taking out the
And
receiving.
if you're doing that, then you can strike the seating
Right.
and whatnot.
Yeah, I pulled that part out.
And we would like to have it done by the end of the year,
Okay.
by the end of this month.
And I think if there's something that happens where these are broken, we need to have, just so everybody's,
Yeah,
aware,
and-
what's
and-
gonna happen
Right.
if this doesn't, all of a
Right.
sudden you
If
go by and
there's
there's
any
beer trucks every week.
violations, the consent
hammer's gonna
agreement
come
is
down.
gone,
So,
and it's another violation. Okay? Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, can I have a motion?
So moved. What she just said.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? All right, Kyle.
Thank you.
All right, consideration of abatement request.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm still typing them.
Well, this lady's name is different. We're spelling it wrong. So Melissa and Melissa. So I don't know if that matters.
Did I give you a copy of it?
Well, it's on the certificate of abatement, but it's also other places. So it's
Okay.
Melissa, and the other one is Mal. Her actual name is Mal.
Yeah, she did the MAL, so I'm assuming that was-
Yeah.
Melissa and Mel, yeah.
Well, it's just-
And our Melissa made this form out for Kurt.
Oh, okay.
Of course, hers is Eve.
It's a
Yes.
Melissa party. All right, so let's have a motion on this abatement.
Move the abatement in the amount, let's see, what's that?
364.11.
Tax amount, yeah.
Yeah, 364.11.
Second. I think we need the lot number and all that too, don't we?
Okay, account number, let's see. Well,
It's
208.
personal property, so there
It's
isn't a lot.
personal
Oh,
property.
okay.
yeah.
Personal
Oh, that's
property,
right.
Account number.
208.
Yeah.
208 PP.
208
Yeah.
PP.
208 PP.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, budget goals. You know what? Why don't we save the budget goals? And why don't we go to the sprinkler system?
Okay.
All right, Bruce, we're gonna put you on the spot here. So, looking back at this sprinkler ordinance,
Yes.
it was always very restrictive. And from what I remember, it started out to just developments. Like if there were more than 4 houses in a development, then they
Subdivision.
needed sprinkler systems.
Correct.
Am I right on that?
Yeah, we had a subdivision ordinance prior to this.
Okay,
Correct.
so my memory's still okay. So why did we get so strict?
So 2 years ago, we adopted the current sprinkler ordinance. There are many reasons why this was done. There's a lot of science that goes into this. The fire environment that we experience today is much, much different than that we experienced 15 years ago. All of our furnishings are synthetic. They're not cotton wool, made of real dimensional lumber. And these things give off double and even triple the energy when involved in a fire, and they're doing it in less than half of the time. In fact, a room fire became untenable with natural furnishings in about 26 minutes in the past. Your normal grandmother's couch, furniture, carpeting even. Now it's 2 minutes, 46 seconds. We're seeing flashovers. We are unable to, well, let me reverse here a little bit. Because of everything being synthetic, the smoke is now fuel. And smoke gas ignition creates huge problems for us, where it used to be said that in 5 minutes a fire would double in its size. And now it's 20 to 50, 60 more times in split seconds due to smoke gas ignition. Again, creating an untenable atmosphere very, very quickly in the structure for the people who might live there. Our buildings have changed. And a lot of people thought that, you know, if I live in a new building, I'm better off because those old buildings are so dry, they're tinderboxes. Believe it or not, the old buildings gave us time, and a lot of time, actually, because they were dimensional lumber. The new materials that we build with are really nothing but oriented strand board. It's chips of wood that are pressed together with epoxy. It's a plastic, it's a hydrocarbon. The stuff fails in mere minutes. So we are arriving at about the time when the building flashes over, when the building goes into failure mode, and we're arriving with much less people. Then we looked at the water supply requirements, and we didn't pick every building. We picked buildings that had 4,800 square feet and greater because we cannot meet that fire flow, the requirement for that building. If it's on fire, we just can't do it. But we're allowing them to build these buildings in our community. We don't have water supply. I'll go into that in a minute or two in a comparison. But we don't have water supplies like a lot of the other towns around us do. If we had hydrants everywhere, it would be a little bit different. So we truck our water, and trucking water is extremely manpower intensive. It's dangerous because we're moving vehicles, large vehicles, back and forth from the site to the scene, back to the site to fill again. And it takes manpower. And as you've heard me speak and preach a lot about staffing and manpower, it's hard to come up with it. The Rand fire, not a new building, an old building, but we reached as far as Westbrook and Poland to get enough tankers so that we could supply water for this fire. And it was a successful event, but still, it was hugely manpower intensive. So we looked at the water supplies, and I'm going to ask Wayne in a minute to go into that and how we developed that. We also designed the ordinance with parallels to the state-adopted minimum code so that we weren't exceptionally out of line. We wanted to be in line with those issues there. So NFPA 1 is the minimum state code, so you'll find a lot of references within our ordinance to NFPA 1 so that we align with that. I guess I missed one point back on the buildings themselves. We used to build small compartmentized buildings. In other words, they had 12 by 12, 12 by 14 rooms in them, low ceilings for heating costs, etc. And these hindered fire behavior or fire growth. Now we build these massive open cathedral ceilings. If your house is like mine, it has a big open concept. It allows for uninhibited fire growth very rapidly. These are some of the changes that we've experienced in just the buildings in the last 20 years, easily, even 15. The other change that we experience is what manpower and staffing we have are often tied up with EMS calls. We are 65 to 70% rescue. That's what we do. That takes 2 minimally of our 3 staffing out of town for 2+ hours. A lot of times it's up to 4 hours by the time we get the call, respond, treat the patient, get to the hospital, do reports, decontaminate the truck, and return back here and get in service. So that takes 2 of your staff out of the picture quickly. And that makes us rely on mutual aid, who's in the exact same boat as we are with EMS calls, if you look at all of them around us. Wyndham, for example, is running 3 ambulances right now, one more than we do, and they're often all 3 out, like we were this weekend, twice at a time. So we had to consider all of these things when it came to our to this ordinance, particularly. I'm going to skip the fire flow for one more minute here. And I talk about staffing, and I talk about hose lines and weights and things like that and what we're expected to do. So now imagine you got 3 people, 3 firefighter EMTs, and you got 2 chief officers. One has to take charge, one's running water supply, and an 1 3/4 hand line that we have weighs in excess of 280 pounds. Dragging that around makes you really worn out quickly. You don't get a lot of stuff done. A 2.5 weighs 516 pounds. So these are 4-person hand lines. We only have 3. So consideration of these things, and you're going to hear it when Wayne covers the water supply, and I think it will really cover the basis. I'm going to skip to Wayne right now and let him go into that before I return back to, if I may, a comparison that I just ran between our area towns. But Wayne, are you ready to cover that water supply issue?
The fire flow, Chief?
Yeah, fire flows, if you would. Thank you.
Sure. So, like the chief was saying, we didn't use any arbitrary numbers. We actually looked at what was around us for ordinances to try to guide us. I think it was Yarmouth or North Yarmouth that we looked at. Of course, Wyndham's. Gorham has everything that they're sprinkling, and we didn't want to go that far. We wanted to address the issue of fire flow and being able to provide the fire flow on our scenes. So with NFPA 1, with ISO, the Insurance Services Office, that 4,800 square foot figure is what we came up with as a benchmark where the ordinance is based on. The at 4,800 square feet, what we're looking at is, of course, these are wood frame buildings. The chief talked about they're open concept buildings. And what we're looking at for a fire flow that we need to be able to provide on that size of a structure is 2,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours. 2,000 gallons per minute for 2 hours, we need to have on site 240,000 gallons of water to be able to handle these calls. You can't do that with tanker trucks. That's 83,000 gallon tankers that you need to get that water to the fire scene. So that's what we're looking at. Under, not that at 47.99 that we're able to magically provide the right gallons per minute flow. You just have to have a square footage that you target, and based on, again, like I said, ISO and the fire code, that's where the 4,800 came from.
So can
By the code, for buildings that are less than the 4,800 square feet, the code recognizes that those buildings require less water, and they tried to standardize what was required, and what they came up with was 1,000 gallons per minute fire flow for 1 hour instead of the 2 hours, which significantly reduces the amount of water that you need to have on the scene. The other part of the fire flow formula is if a building has a sprinkler system, the code recognizes that the sprinkler system would reduce the impacts of a fire by 75%. And, with that 75% reduction on the 4,800 square foot building, we've knocked 240,000 gallons down to 60,000 gallons that are needed, which is 20 tanker truck loads. That's within our capabilities. So that's where the sprinkler ordinance came from, what we were trying to do with the sprinkler ordinance.
So could I ask you a question, though? That 4,800 square feet,
Yep.
that also includes outside living space. Like if there's a wraparound porch, it includes that as living area.
In garage.
And the garage, right?
It's attached.
Attached garage.
Right. So,
Yes.
so,
And that's,
so why aren't we at 4,000 like most of the other ones around here that I saw, eliminating that outside space as part of the living area?
so where we got the, like the outside porches, where the garage comes into play, is all based on the fire code. The fire code directs us that we're going to need water to put out fires in those particular areas. So that's part of the calculation. And that's why it's part of the square footage
But
for whether our building needs a sprinkler or not.
when I looked at some of the other area ordinances, they do not count the outside area. They just count the 4,000 square feet of living space.
I guess the other thing too is
So-
why are we going with like these big towns with the houses that are
Well,
all
the houses are
right
really
next
close
to each
together.
other? Yeah,
Westbrook
exactly.
and Wyndham, everything's 20
Right.
feet apart.
Well, that's what I mean.
Raymond's ordinances are more spread out, I think, than
We are spread out, but you also will have, you have to understand that Westbrook or whatever, I mean, they got, 15 people on. We have 3. I mean, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. We are behind the 8 ball immediately. One, we don't have hydrants on every corner. Westbrook's pretty much all covered. When we start looking at some of the other communities, they have a lot of hydrants. So I guess going back a little bit, we've been very successful over the years with our fire protection ordinances. We're very progressive, yes, I will give you that, we are. But there is also an end result to that. We see far less fires than towns maybe to our west, to our north, than we experience. And we have more houses in our community. We have better protection with our ordinances, and we follow through with inspections. We have a great codes department that works with us hand in hand on a lot of this stuff. So that's one of the success stories that we have.
Do you guys track that, like
what-
fires over 4,000 square foot houses and
We just track
percentage
general,
of them
all
going?
fires, and yeah, that would show if we looked at the individual report, how many square feet it's entered into the reports and stuff. Yeah.
And then if they're sprinklered or not?
Yep, that would be also tracked, and we submit all the data to the federal government as required and the state of Maine as required, so.
What if they're
When we
wells?
look at that one question, though, if I can kind of go back to that, we look at the whole fuel package, because the garage and the porch is also part of that. It's like having a pile of wood to go in a wood stove. It's a cord, all one cord.
But other communities don't.
They didn't, and they may have given up something that they shouldn't have. They also may be very different than us. And if you look at Wyndham, for example, 9 people on during the day with 3 chief officers. I can't compete with that. I mean, they have a depth to their staff that we just can't provide.
But they have four
We have
times the amount of
5.
houses that we have, right?
Yes.
Sorry?
They have 4 times the amount of houses that we have in the.
They are bigger.
Yeah.
They are bigger, yes.
I think that's.
They also have way more rescue calls than we do, but, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, we can look at it that way, but
More hydrants too.
more hydrants. They
But
have.
when we
they-
passed
Wyndham
this
has-
ordinance, and we said, okay, if you build a development of 4 more houses, you not only must sprinkle the houses, you must have a water supply.
Correct. We have some of that in there.
Right.
If you're X distance from the station, and if you, correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne, but isn't it over 5 homes requires a tank? After 10, it's another? If it's,
Yeah, it's something to that effect.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that
Right.
being discussed.
And we look at like a Wyndham compared to us, to kind of go back to that, they have 386 fire hydrants. They're 50% covered in hydrants. We have 25. We're less than 1% covered in pressurized hydrants. They just aren't there.
So I guess one of the reasons I want to look at this, you're building a new home, it's an extra $15,000, $20,000 to
my
put in a
God.
sprinkler system.
Yes. And you have a 24/7 firefighter in your home.
Yeah, but not
Now
if your
we're not
wells aren't
flash
good.
over.
And how
now-
many times do the wells
no,
start to dry
Now
up?
you have tanks, that's
You
why
got
it's
tanks.
so expensive. You
I
this
have
big
one at
tank
my
in your
house,
full
there's
of
a
water.
tank.
There are
There's a
options.
300-gallon tank. in
There are also options to the sprinkler systems, and one of the options that we can cover here would be the fire barriers, not a barrier, but a firewall. So that's a UL engineered and listed structural component that's designed to prevent a fire from going from one section to another, and tanks. And we offer that as in our ordinance as an option. And we also accept the opener, strange name, but opener systems, which is a system that works directly off your internal plumbing. It doesn't have a tank. It requires a very large pump in the ground in your well, but it's also a much more cost-effective system. The opener system does not sprinkle in your attic or in your closets.
So how are
as
you
opposed
accepting
to
that?
13. It's just an option that we allow.
Well,
If we
right.
can get a system put in.
Do you know
I would
roughly
rather
what-
do that with a fire department connection, which is above and beyond what the opener system will do.
But
So we will accept
I
that.
guess I'm not understanding that then, because you're doing the outside. To me, the main goal, and I know people are not going to agree with me on, is making sure everybody gets out of that
Correct.
house safe.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
it's not, yeah, I'm going to cry and scream, my house burns and stuff like that, but at least my family is all out. So you're doing the garage, you're doing the porches,
We
but
aren't sprinkling those areas, but it's part of the fuel package.
But you
Oh.
count it as part of your
Yeah.
square
Part of the
footage.
square footage, correct, because
Yep.
it is part of what will burn and cause that to become so.
well, so will your
catastrophic.
attic.
And your attic, and that space is included in it, but not, am I correct in that, Wayne?
Yeah, you're correct. It doesn't get a sprinkler
But it
up
doesn't get
there
a
in
sprinkler.
the attic, but it is part of the gross square footage. Because, you know, we have to look at it as, you know, we're drawing a line and when we're looking at buildings. You know, the 4799 building requires an X amount of water.
Correct.
The 4,800 square foot building requires another X amount of water, but we have the sprinkler.
We lost.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, he froze.
You look good,
So
Wayne.
we also,
Well,
look at Gorham, and Gorham, you sprinkle every home regardless. They have 400 houses sprinkled to date, and they have hydrants in over 60% of their community, and
Buy
much more
some
staff.
time and get some manpower on scene.
You froze up, Wayne, sorry. You had
Oh,
frozen
that
up, so we got you when you said get manpower on scene is all we heard.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'm having some,
But what made me start thinking about this, Bruce, is Nathan came here on the public safety building that we're talking about, not public safety, but public works.
Works.
$850,000 to sprinkle that building. That's what was told to us by the engineer.
Yeah. I've done a little bit of follow-up on some of those things, and immediately off the bat, if we just switch to a three-phase pump, you'll cut at least 50, maybe 75, and 80,000 off the top of that. I don't believe you're 800. I believe you're more like 350, 400.
Still,
Yeah,
that's not cheap.
Cut some money out of that, and then, if we lose our fleet, it's not cheap either. I mean, that's the other issue.
But-
And if we lose a person fighting the fire, then we also have another issue, so. That's what I have to look at it as, is we've got people that are charged with saving people, structures, et cetera, and if we can prevent it, let's prevent it. It's a pay now, pay later thing.
What's the situation with Mr. Snow's property?
Well, wait, before.
Yeah,
let-
yeah.
where- Where's the definition section? Because where's the definition of living area?
NFPA 1, Chapter 15, correct, Wayne?
18 is for fire flow.
15 is fire flow. Where was the
18,
definition
the
of
living area?
Yeah.
What's considered living area? I'd have to look that up.
Because, I mean, we keep talking about garage, we keep talking about a sun porch, but are those, you would not normally consider those living areas.
Correct.
And so if they're part of the calculation, then we're not in compliance with our own definition section. So that's why I say, where's the definition for living area?
Not how we,
on that one.
the old ordinance, it didn't have that. Where that, we might find that in the code, I'd have to look that
I
up
mean,
for you.
'cause I think that's important, because it could, this could be a discussion where we're having a discussion that doesn't have as big of an impact if living area is defined as one thing and somebody else is thinking it's entirely, it's being calculated differently.
Right.
'Cause-
And at this point, we can't find that. Can I have John Fasella, who is our public safety educator for the fire department and an NFPA committee member, stand up and give a
Sure.
couple words?
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you.
I think some of you know me. I'm a part-time employee with the town, doing public safety education, but also I'm a fire inspector, and I work with Wayne. I want to make a couple of points. We're talking a lot about garages, and one thing very interesting that happened, yes, we don't sprinkle garages, but as the chief said, they contribute to the fire load. So back in 2015 in Derry, New Hampshire, not very far from here, a 14-year-old girl was home alone. Garage caught fire. Snow blocked her primary exit, but the sprinkler system in the house took its time to slow the fire down getting into the house, and she got out. She's alive today because of that. Okay, second thing is, we're talking about costs. I actually called one of our local sprinkler companies who is working in Rolling Brook. And their charge for a Rolling Brook house, which is typically a 3 or 4 bedroom house, is $10,000 to $15,000, not $20,000, not $25,000. And that's their charge to sprinkle that house that they charge the contractor.
I don't think anyone said 20 to 25. I said 15.
I heard up to 20,000. Perhaps I heard wrong. But I just want to clarify that that's what they're charging is 10 to 15. Now, what is that in terms of the price of the house? Well, it's 4% under worst-case conditions, which is the highest sprinkler, 15,000, against the cheapest house, which I didn't write down. Oh, it's 369. But if you look at, for example, what people pay for granite countertops or a remodel of a kitchen remodel is between $14,000 and $41,000. Now, a kitchen remodel is not going to save your life, and a kitchen remodel is not going to save your house. So you put the money, instead of the kitchen remodel, into the sprinkler system, and now, as Bruce says, you have a firefighter right there ready to save your life 24/7. In addition, we're doing a lot of comparisons to other towns. I'm not sure that some of those comparisons are very good. One of the things that's been omitted is this town has a lot of rolling hills and a lot of camp roads. I live on a camp road, and it will take time for fire trucks in the middle of winter to get down to my house. So these other towns, and I've driven through all of them, yes, they have hydrants, which makes it easier, but they also have paved roads. We don't have exclusive paved roads throughout the town. And then one other thing that I'd like to mention is in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, they did a 15-year study. They passed a sprinkler ordinance, and they compared sprinkled buildings to non-sprinkled buildings. And between 1988 and 2010, they had 90 home fatalities in non-sprinkled buildings. You know how many fatalities they had in sprinkled buildings? None. Almost as important is property damage. A lot of people often say, well, the sprinklers make a lot of water, and that's a problem with water in my home, and so forth and so on. So the same place, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, the average property loss for sprinkled homes was $14,000, $14K. Compare that to almost $180K for unsprinkled homes. So the fire is going to be extinguished in 37 seconds. There's a UL, they've done a whole bunch of tests, and we'll bore you with the details, but one of them, they compare a sprinkled and unsprinkled room. In the sprinkled room, the smoke alarm goes off at about 12 seconds. At 37 seconds, the sprinkler goes off and extinguishes or at least controls the fire. Now, that's the reality that we have in this town. We have these buildings built of engineered materials that are going to fail. We have these high hydrocarbon content furnishings that are going to flash in 4 minutes. But in 37 seconds, that fire is largely going to be out. The occupants have enough time to get out, and by the time we get there, instead of going into a dangerous situation where the floor may collapse, we're just putting a little overhaul, so to speak, to put the fire out. So I just wanted you to have that information. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
I don't think any of us deny the,
You guys are going to be out of a job.
I mean, the fact that sprinkler systems work. My concern is the living area calculation.
Yes.
I think we're a little extreme when compared to other towns. I don't think you should count outside area as part of the living area. And as Rolf says, I would love to see a definition of what living area is.
Well, we have a big problem that we have in this town too is affordable housing or anything remotely going to that. But if you do add in garages, which now everybody wants, it's almost a given. You have a 2-car garage and one little covered porch. There's not many homes that you're going to fit under that square footage range, even in first-time, second-time home buyers ones. Those are going to be almost all included now.
Right.
Well, and that's one of the things that they talked about as far as the comp plan when Peter Levitt stood up too, that we did not meet the requirements for affordable housing. So that's something they're going to be looking in the future. But how do you get that affordable housing in there if these extra expenses are in there?
So I guess what we want to see, Bruce, is a definition of living area,
Okay.
as Rolf requested. I think it makes sense to see what that definition is.
I mean, I guess the other thing would be get with Alex on new home permits and whatnot and see how many that would affect.
Okay, I actually have figures on that right now. To date, since the ordinance's inception, there have been 6 homes that have triggered the ordinance as far as square footage go out of almost 80 new home building permits. There are, though, 5 more that are upcoming, and we've talked about. The plans are
What dates were that?
not permitted yet.
What dates was that?
This was adopted 21. Yep, 21.
2021, there's been 6 sprinklered homes in range.
6 for this ordinance. Yes, not talking subdivisions, just this ordinance has triggered that. So
And then there's been
4,800
80
square.
permits?
80 new, almost 80, Alex said. It's close.
But
But
So
you're
some of
not
those are in the
counting the
subdivi-
subdivisions
You're not-
that
No,
were
but you're-
mandated to
yeah.
put them in.
But
Yeah.
you're not counting the 80 in the subdivision either.
No, I don't believe so.
Those are
Oh,
all
yeah,
permits.
Maybe they are.
Yes,
Not sure.
What he's saying is that he's got,
But what-
since 21, there's been 6 that have required a sprinkler system because of the ordinance.
Right.
Right.
But out of the
There have been many-
80, if there's 40 of those that have been in a subdivision, you have 46 homes that have sprinklered. You're
Right,
just
yeah, you-
so the 80 number isn't really as accurate as the 6. You kind of have to go out of the 80. How many of these wouldn't have required a sprinkler anyway that do? That would
Yeah.
drop that number way.
I was just looking at the 4,800
Yeah, no, I get it,
threshold,
yeah.
not, because these are 2 separate ordinances. So one falls under the land use and I believe
But you're
subdivision,
taking the total on the 80,
and the other one is this.
and the other one's only that. So you're kind of
Yeah. So there haven't been that many, though. I mean, that's the reality of it if you look at the full 2 years. Of
So Bruce,
this
your
thing.
fire protection ordinance,
Yes,
is the definition in that online?
that should be on there as well.
As far as the
that it
living
refers
space,
to
because I have it up
NFPA 1.
now. Do you know what it would be under?
I say, I actually don't use that ordinance a whole lot. That is really a Wayne and John thing. So,
What was the question, Mr. Chairman? Sorry.
Where in your ordinance does it define living space?
Living space, living area.
It does not.
It
What?
does not.
Talks about the gross square footage, which is the same thing as the fire code talks about, is gross square footage.
So, but you're-
So it appears to me we've got a cart and a horse issue here,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
we've got, we're saying, we're saying discuss the square footage of living area, but yet we haven't defined it. So I think the first order of business is to define that, so then we can determine what the impact is. Right now, you're at the whim of whatever anybody's interpretation of living area is.
Understand the current ordinance isn't making a determination of living area versus non-living area. It's looking at a building as a whole because of how much water we need to put out.
Yeah, I'm not disputing
the
that, but
fire.
what I'm saying is that the thing that's in front of us says discuss reducing the square footage threshold of living area from X to Y. So you've already defined that there's something that you're defining it against, but it's an undefined entity.
But Wayne isn't. I made this document. And
Which-
I made this document after Joe asked me to look at the surrounding towns' ordinances, and Wyndham refers to living area. And
Yep.
they
Ours
have a
is
lower
first four.
square footage of living area than the 4,800. They go with 4,000 feet of living area.
But they're not saying what the living area is.
No, I didn't.
Ours
That's
is-
what we're asking right now, yeah.
They may in their ordinance, I didn't capture
So I
that.
mean, we, you know,
Ours is
we
gross
really,
square
you know, because, you know, again, you may be into a situation where if, depending on what the definition is, that you are not having an impact, or you are.
But that was taken from Wyndham's.
Yeah.
I think for next month's meetings, I would like to hear a definition of what living area is.
Well,
And the fact is, then, the ordinance would need to have that definition added
In
to
the
it.
ordinance.
Because, you know, otherwise, you're into, now you're into, what, he said, she said, you know, the only way you can do it is make sure you define the
What a living
elements.
area
Yeah,
is.
specifically.
Yeah.
okay, but in this,
So who
in this
changed?
case, we go back to the situation with Mr. Snow. What does he do in the meanwhile while we try to figure this out? He's kind of in that limbo state, but, I mean, I'm looking on here, for the purpose of this ordinance, the term building shall mean any structure except single-family dwelling unless specifically included by local ordinance or state, two-family dwelling of 2 stories or less in height, barn or stable used exclusively for agricultural purposes, shelters having roofs. So, yeah.
Well, no matter what we do, you're at least 6 months off, because this would have to go to town meeting for an ordinance change.
But what does he do in the meanwhile?
When did it get, so when did it change from the original one to this?
2021.
2021.
2021.
The original one was
2021.
about 2018.
Simply based on the gross square footage, not a living area. That's what that ordinance is written.
And we changed that one and voted on it?
Yes.
We are not, we didn't refer to living space in our ordinance. It refers
No.
only to gross square footage.
No, no, no.
Oh, wait a
When
minute.
it was changed in 2021,
In 21.
it had to go to town meeting to
Yep.
get voted on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right,
So I mean, that's.
correct.
But I mean, if we're looking at doing a change, let's do a clean change.
Well,
Am I allowed to chime in?
hold on 1 second. Number 4 on here.
Not yet.
Sorry.
Almost.
A fire sprinkler system is required throughout in any existing residential 1 and 2 family bedrooms, buildings of 4,800 square feet or more in total gross floor area. When any repair, restructuring, rehabilitation, alteration, or other improvement of the building or structure which equals or exceeds 50% of the existing gross square footage of the building or structure. When renovations occur, that would require a building permit, and the total area, ceiling, walls covering would also, an approved fire sprinkler system is required to be installed throughout. So you guys just kind of threw in there 4,800.
We didn't just,
It's not just.
It came out of the codes.
Came
No,
out of the code.
sorry, that came out
Correct.
wrong.
we
Yeah.
used the code for
No,
guidance.
that
on
came out wrong, sorry.
No. I think a definition of living area is very important in this. Mm-hmm. And it could change a lot of things.
Yes, it could.
So, you know, I mean, I don't live out on my deck,
No.
okay? Especially when it's 10 below zero. All right?
Your deck probably isn't covered, though.
Yeah,
It is? Okay.
Yeah.
So that roof's tied into your roof of your house.
Yeah.
It
yep.
is part of the burn.
Well, I have a
package.
sprinkler system,
But you do, yes. Yeah.
so. Okay. Is that Mr. Snow on Zoom?
Yes.
Mr. Snow,
Yes.
are you available? All right.
I am, if you can hear me.
We can. So go ahead, we have your letter in front of us. You've heard the conversation, and we like to hear what you have to say.
I am listening to Wayne and Bruce and their guest speaker. I can't tell you how much respect I have. I don't think that anybody, as we build this new home in your city, is after me or trying to make us spend a lot of money. We just received, actually today, the lowest bid we have seen at $15,000. And our livable square foot is 2,100 and approximately 50 square feet. I think you see that in the letter. I may be redundant here, but the 3-car garage, the basement underneath the livable, it's a ranch home, and then the covered porches seem to all add up when they were trying to tell us that we had to put a sprinkler system in this house, or basically we would not receive a certificate of occupancy, period. And so I'm thinking, if we only have 2,150 square feet, most of the houses moving forward, the city of Raymond is going to have to sprinkler all of them. Every house is going to have to be sprinklered. I don't have an excessively large home. And I appreciate the analogy, by the way, about that young lady that got out of her house because it was sprinklered. But he took that analogy from 2015. This is the year 2024. So I'm hoping that we can move forward. Wayne, by the way, I haven't met you personally yet. I think that you are the code officer that demanded this sprinkler system. And I appreciate actually what you're doing as a fireman, and I think you're trying to save people's lives. You're not trying to get at anybody, but I just do feel like this is excessive on a house that's no larger than ours is. I hope I didn't go on too long.
No, you did great. Thank you, Mr. Snow. By the way, Raymond is a town and not a city. There's only 4,700 of us here, okay?
Okay.
We still only have, I think, 2 stoplights, so just.
That's why I want to be there, by the way. And I'm not some crazy foreigner, by the way. We've lived in Wyndham now we've had a home there in Wyndham for years. At any rate,
Well,
we'll move forward. Thank you for at least paying attention to this. And I hope that somehow, so I can have a CO and not spend $15,000 more on a house. I'm hoping we can move forward without a sprinkler system. That's our goal.
all right, well, thank you, Mr. Snow. I have a question for you, Bruce.
Yes.
I build a house. It's 3,000 square feet, and then I add on to it. Do I have to go back and retrofit a sprinkler system in it?
No, and yes.
Okay.
There is a
yes.
percentage, I believe, in the ordinance of value. If you exceed the percentage of value, then it has to be retroed. I believe it's also a portional coverage with, I'm looking to Wayne to see if he'll correct me. Again, I'm not the guy who administers this code so much as Wayne and John do. They're in the field doing this.
But I mean, a
I forgot
retrofit
more than they'll,
is gonna be a heck of a lot more than 15,000.
retro would be. Am I correct or am I wrong in that with the threshold, Wayne?
So when we're looking at the retrofit,
Oh my God.
I know of a building in particular, it'll probably come up at some point, that they're basically tearing out all the inside sheetrock right down to the bare studs, and that's the time to retrofit.
Right.
And that building's going to be a significantly sized building, so way more than what we're looking at here with Mr. Snow.
So that's an old building that they're redoing, and they're tearing it
Right.
all down, and that
Right.
exceeds
Well, they're not tearing it all
4,800. Well, they're redoing the whole inside,
They're
gutting
gutting
it.
Yeah.
That's already over 4,800 square feet, so that, so they have to put in a sprinkler system at that point. But if I have even a 3,500 square foot building, and then 5 years from now,
Want to add an in-law?
add an in-law apartment, which is in our ordinances now.
Yep.
You're telling me I'm gonna have to go back and retrofit the building?
You're going to have to, shall require the entire building to be installed with an automatic fire sprinkler system.
Wow.
That's what it's saying here.
Yeah.
Any building or structure of 4,800 square feet, more gross floor area, any repair, reconstruction, rehabilitation, alteration, or other improvement of a building or structure which equals or exceeds 50% of the existing building shall require the entire building to be installed.
Wow.
So if it exceeds 50%.
It was.
So
Yeah.
if you're adding an in-law apartment, you're not increasing by 50%.
Well, I mean,
No, I think
but
it's-
you may get the 4,800 square
And
feet.
it's not, I don't think it's adding the 50%. I think it's remodeling the 50%. So if
Yes.
you're adding on a certain
Modeling
amount, but you're
50%
gutting
of
the
the
rest of it,
Yeah.
what you're fixing is that
Yes,
amount.
the yeses and the no of that.
Yeah.
And I get the argument of
I like-
sprinkler
I like it.
systems.
You're like,
Sorry, I can't really
no,
define it.
yes and the no's. I like
Exactly,
that.
it's the yeses and the nos.
I mean, sprinkler systems will save lives, I get that,
Yeah.
will save maybe a portion of the building. I don't know if they'll save the whole building. But how can you say it's a 3,000 square foot building, you're okay, and then a 4,800 square foot building,
It
you
all
have to
comes
have
down to that
sprinkler?
fire flow and what we can and can't achieve. So when you hit the
Yeah.
4,800, you hit those flows, which we just can't even.
But if I live 2 miles down a dirt road, you're not gonna get there
We
anyway.
probably won't. You know, and
That's
and
just,
the thing.
that's reality.
So, in reality, we should be looking at it like Gorham did and say everything.
Everything,
is
yeah,
done.
well.
And, I guess my philosophy has been for a long time, but you know, if you're going to build it, you better protect it. We may not be able to. And it's not that we're an incapable department. We're very capable.
Right.
We have great equipment. We have great support from you folks in our community on this stuff, so we get good equipment. However,
It's
it's
logistics.
15 minutes from our station. It
Yeah.
takes 3 minutes for the fire to get
Right.
discovered and reported. It takes 3
Yeah.
minutes to take the info. It
Yeah.
takes 5-10 minutes to get.
No one would ever blame the
Show
fire
up at
department, ever. It's just, it's a fact of life that if you live far away, you're not gonna get there in time.
Even the
And that's a
close
fact of life.
I think that you know that.
Even
Yeah.
the
Building
close
it too.
ones.
Right, and when you move there, you know those things.
Should I build next to a fire hydrant? Anybody
Yeah.
can put a sprinkler
Theory.
system in.
Right.
If you're that, you know, if you build a 1,200 square foot ranch and you hear about the 13-year-old girl
I
and you want to
sprinkle my
save your
in-law
house,
car.
boom, and you can put it in yourself. You don't
I
have
didn't-
to. Just because the ordinance is there doesn't mean
Right.
anybody can.
Right. I sprinkled my in-law. I did not sprinkle and retro the rest of the house because I would have had to gut my walls down to, you know, again.
Well, that's because you like,
If I remodel
you
it,
like your mother-in-law.
yeah, absolutely. You know,
On camera, that's a very good thing.
absolutely. So, it,
All right.
it is what
so,
it is. So.
So if
Mr.
we could get a
Chairman?
definition of living space,
Yes.
that would be very helpful.
But I'm sorry, where are you going to get that from? Because he says it's not in there.
Not in there.
I can go to the Wyndham
Yeah.
ordinance where I.
Somewhere there's got to be a definition of what living space is
Yeah.
in a house.
I would assume if they defined that in there, or
Yeah.
if they said that, because you said
Then they
that
must
it
have
would be
it
the same as their ordinance, then they must have defined it.
Yes.
Okay,
I
If
was
they
so-
didn't, then
I
they
was
had,
looking for
if they didn't, then
differences.
there's another problem.
Yes.
That's-
So we will bring that back in January.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll also work with the chief about, and Wayne probably about, having an appeal process, because I realize
Yes.
that the ordinance is missing that.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is.
So
That was a
what
good
does Mr.
point.
Snow do in the meanwhile?
There's nothing that's going to happen before 6 months
So
anyway.
you're saying that he's going to have to put it in?
Well,
because it's gotta-
I don't know
it would-
where
It
he
would
is.
have to go to planning board. Planning
Right.
board would have to write the ordinance, or do the
Yeah.
ordinance, and it would have to go to a public hearing, then it would go to town meeting.
So
Yeah,
you're saying
it's
that
6
he will have
months
to
at
put it
least.
in? So he understands fire codes.
All right.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did I just hear that I have to put this sprinkler system in because it'll be 6 months before anything's done? Is that what I just heard?
That's pretty much what you heard. Yeah. The ordinance changes take about 6 months.
An ordinance change can only be put into effect by town meeting.
But
And
even
we
if,
have town meeting in June, unless we had a special town meeting. But even with
Yeah.
that, it takes a couple of months or several months to get the wording right, to have the planning board look at it, to have our attorneys look at it, and then to post the meeting and get that noticed.
but if
But your
the,
ordinance
Yeah.
calls for, by the way, we don't have an ordinance that tells me that I have 2,150 square feet. That ordinance doesn't tell me that I am required to have a sprinkler system put in my home. And you're saying that we have that in place. Just for the record, I have 3 neighbors that have new homes. None of them have sprinkler systems. And
So-
so,
If I may.
excuse me, Wayne, but
Yeah.
bottom line is, can common sense prevail here? Is there a way for an average size home, somebody say, I'll make the call, he doesn't have to have a sprinkler system, it only has 2,150 square feet, he doesn't live in the garage, he's going to have a firewall between the garage and the home, he doesn't live in the basement, it's completely unfinished, he doesn't live out on those porches that they want to include if they need to. I mean, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for me to be going on, but this is a lot of money because there is no ordinance that says that my home at 2,150 square feet has to have a sprinkler system. I don't think you can show me that in writing. Can you?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. The other houses were built before the ordinance took effect, just for one simple note. The basement plans that we received for this house are partially finished already. It's noted in the blueprints submitted by Mr. Snow to Alex for the permit. And when you factor in the gross square footage as per the ordinance, it does, unfortunately, it does require it, so.
The basement is not finished at all.
Well, Mr. Snow, I understand your frustration, but government moves at a snail's pace. Ordinances, yeah, we can't just waive an ordinance. It's in place for a reason. We can try and change the ordinance, but changing that ordinance takes months. And we received your letter. We're trying to help you here. Believe me, we're trying to help you. But I can't just snap my fingers and make it go away.
All right. I mean, I guess the other question would be, so, I mean, appeal is not built into the ordinance as it is now, but it is a land use or a planning, so there is an appeals process that he could.
Can he go to the zoning board of appeals?
Can he go, Alex? Alex, can he go to ZBA to request a variance?
No, there's no appeal section in this ordinance, so.
But there is in land use ordinance, right?
Well, that would require me to probably deny a building permit, and then him appeal that decision, I guess. I mean, I don't, the section for administrative appeals in the ordinance is specific to a decision made by the code officer. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would, I don't think it would be a
Okay.
possible solution, to be honest. I think there should be an appeal section added to this.
Well, obviously now we know that.
Yep.
And that's going to be at least part of this. But I really do think the living area question also needs to be a part of this.
And I think ideally, my plan is to do a public hearing on ordinance changes in March, the planning board.
Okay.
So if we can get drafted amendments to this,
Well,
February.
yeah, well, we're going to have our next meeting in January, and hopefully we'll have some suggestions for you.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. All right. Wow. Next, can we do the cybersecurity next? We'll save the budget goals for last.
My suggestion, okay, before you get into it,
Yes.
my suggestion on this, it's a living document, you're already finding issues with it. My suggestion would be, let's let people, before we piecemeal make changes in there, let's let people look at it, read it, figure out what it is, and come up with a total blanket set of
Well, and that's what I've
recommendations.
tried to do with this one. I've sent it out to all of the department heads, asked them to review it. I'm not sure how many.
Does Nathan
read it
have any
totally.
issues with it?
One of the pieces that's coming out is because of Nathan, yes.
So I think one of the things we need to do is vote as a select board that it's okay for the sheriff's department to have access under one code,
Yes.
right? So can I have a motion for that?
And not to put in the other changes or whatever.
I think you sit on it for like 6
Okay.
months and see what pops up
Okay.
due to these.
But I mean,
But,
you know, I
but
guess-
that's the one thing I know we need to address.
Yeah, but
And
does
we
he,
have
do they
already
have
done
that,
that.
do they have that access now?
They do.
Okay, so if they do, we have not voted to approve this policy, so the fact of its absence in there doesn't preclude what you're asking for there. If they already have access,
Well, they have access because
Because it was
Sue and I and Nathan had a discussion, said, give them access.
oh, okay.
And,
right.
yeah, give them
Yeah.
access and we'll figure it out
And then
later.
Kevin, came back with, well, I need select board approval.
Okay.
So
In that case, fine.
that's what I'm asking for, is select board approval that they have access, because they're an important part of this whole thing.
Oh,
Okay,
definitely.
so moved.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? There you go.
Okay,
You have
so
a
I'll flag
select
this.
board vote on the sheriff having access on the one code. Okay?
Perfect.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, sit on it for 6 months.
Okay.
See what pops up and
But not just sit on it, have people read it and
Yeah.
comment on it.
well, that's what I mean,
Well, I
don't,
mean,
and then make notes on what needs to be changed.
Yes.
I mean, you know,
Because it's a, you know, it's a big document.
yeah,
It's
it's a lot.
Okay, so can I just jump in here just a second?
Yes.
I'm just looking, sorry, back on that Wyndham Fire thing, because now it's got me curious, really curious. And it just says, the definition of gross floor area, the sum of the horizontal areas of all enclosed areas of a building, including cellars, basements, mezzanines, penthouses, corridors, and lobbies, measured from the exterior face of the exterior walls or from the center line of a common wall separating two buildings, but excluding any space with a floor-to-ceiling height of less than 6 feet 6 inches, if you even understood any of that.
Yeah.
Glad they did.
Count everything unless it's very
Yeah.
short ceiling.
Right.
So what about decks?
Everything with a roof on it.
Decks don't sometimes, right?
That one, I think that one said horizontal walls though, so it would have to be an enclosed porch or
Right.
an enclosed deck. I don't think it's
Right,
including
and a
just
screen.
So it
doesn't
would
count.
close, it would do the garage then.
It would do the garage. I don't think
Right.
it would do the decks and the
No.
porches if they're covered because it said horizontal walls. But
Right.
that's just what I heard you ramble off. So
Yeah. But you will
I didn't
come,
memorize it.
Sue will come back with that definition.
Wyndham, and it's under definitions instead of
Yeah.
fire sprinklers, yeah. Sorry.
All right, so we're good on the cyber stuff. All right, budget goals. So Derek, this is where we all talk about what we want to see in the next budget and
I,
give the departments
our 2 cents.
our 2 cents
Yeah, and some sort of direction.
and some sort of direction.
And one conversation Sharice and I have had is that number one that's on there from last year, we're not sure is attainable.
The what? What's number one?
Number one is don't raise taxes, period.
That's Joe's every year.
No, I didn't say that.
I second that. Oh wait, we're not.
You second that it's Joe's? Or-
Yeah.
Remember, that's a,
No.
Oh, we're not.
but the fact is, you know,
I mean,
you don't
we
know,
should-
you don't know if it's attainable until you try it. It's a
Right.
goal. It's not a,
It's definitely a goal.
Yeah.
Should be.
So,
and it has been taken sometimes a little stronger than a goal in the past.
I mean, obviously, you want to keep the taxes down to a minimum. Look at your core services, as we always say. Garbage pickup is, you know, people want that. You want a good educational system, right? And you want good roads. And you want sprinkler systems in every house.
But if
And that's how you get rid of the fire
but then you
department.
don't have a fire department budget because your sprinklers are in every house.
But, I mean, those are the areas you want to look at.
well, but I like it that if our taxes are going to be going up, you give them a reason for going up for things that are being added to the town, like the rec programs and
Right.
and doing like the
The public safety garage.
yes, so where we're taking
Public
care of the
works.
buildings and
Public
yeah,
works.
public
Yeah.
works.
I mean, you also need to invest in the town,
Yes,
which we have done a lot of
We have.
over the last 5-6 years.
and it's all been positive
And I agree, it has been positive.
without
Yeah.
killing the bank.
Well, you know, we're pushing the limit here a little bit.
But it's not just us.
But,
as
I mean, we are still fiscally in pretty good shape.
Yes.
And I think we need to stay there. We don't need to go overboard.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want to
Yeah.
give a little and get carried away.
Right. I mean, yeah, we have a capital improvement program that works very well for being able to buy equipment and everything else. We know the Public Works building is gonna, you know, be bonded, and, you know, we need to see how can we make that affordable.
Yes.
It's gonna be a 20-year bond, more than likely, because of the cost.
Yes.
Those, I mean, what other goals do people think about? Anyone?
No, I usually come up
Mr.
with
Chair,
my-
can I chime in here?
Sure.
Okay. Well, you know, in talking about the mill rate and, you know, core-driven budget and, you know, investing in infrastructure and equipment and buildings and all of that, our capital improvement plan program has really not been, let's say, you know,
Funded.
reviewed and looked at, and you're supposed to, you know, it's supposed to look out 5 years and update it annually. That has not been occurring. and it needs to be townwide and not just department-wide. And the other piece of that is to, when you're looking at a capital improvement program, is to consider your financing options to make that investment, whether it be borrowing, whether it be from a reserve account, or we also added to tonight's agenda the consideration of impact fees, which is something that was talked about briefly back in March. That might be another source of revenue, because our revenues are really not changing from year to year, but the expenditures are continually increasing. So it's very difficult to, maintain or lower that mill rate. And, it's not just us, it's the school, it's the county. So I just want to, put that out there that, the CIP, the capital improvement plan really needs to be looked at in further detail and worked on. And, those impact fees, I'm trying to think of other revenue sources for us.
Well, I mean, revenue does grow every year because the mill rate goes up, so you're collecting more in taxes every year from everybody. So to say that revenues aren't growing is not true.
I'm talking about types of revenues. The types of revenues that we have are typically the same.
Right. But that's because we're a residential town. We're not a commercial town. We don't have a lot of commercial property here. Most of the funding comes from residents and their property tax bills. That's just the way it is.
And more people are moving in. We're having more businesses come in, so it's more money there. I don't want to get off of this, but those impact fee, that would be a conversation we'll have here.
Well, I mean, that's part of the conversation.
Oh.
Sharice has asked about impact fees because we had a discussion when Chris talked about it. And
I don't like it.
I think it's just another tax. You can call it whatever you want. It's just another tax on people.
We do the budget for everybody to cover it, like recreational, we pay for those things through it. But then if you add on to people's houses, besides that 15,000, then you got another 4,000 or whatever impact fee for certain, there's prices, I get it.
I mean, the developers pay the impact fee, but that just gets passed on
the consumer.
to the consumer who buys the house.
The first time home buying house go up, another 15 grand for sprinklers, $5 grand for the impact,
Just, I feel like they're getting double taxed.
And then they're going to still pay the mill rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree with that. A tax is an ongoing annual thing. These impact fees are a one-time charge.
Yeah, but they get passed down to the consumer. It's just because it's a one-time thing. They get charged that one time.
So when you pass it down to the consumer, the price of the house goes up. The valuation goes up because you put in a sprinkler system and you had impact fees added to it. So what they pay in property taxes goes up. So it's a tax. I know it's one time,
Poor Bruce
but
back there.
down the road you're paying more because you added more value to the house.
I just don't want Raymond to be the town that taxes the crap out of people.
Oh, I agree. And Raymond's always been pretty good about having a reasonable mill rate, and oftentimes the lowest mill rate in Cumberland County.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and if we want to bring people to town and have more development, you keep the housing affordable. And I think
that's something they need to work on now, but they can't pass that affordability to the people because everything is so freaking expensive now. But I hate to throw on another fee. Oh my goodness.
So Sharice, not that we shot down your impact fees, but what else do you have to add?
The only other thing that I could think of as another potential revenue source was I think we could probably do better in grant revenue. Kathy and I have talked a little bit about it. We have, they don't bring in a lot of money, but there are some that, that we do apply. I mean, the fire department, public safety had one for Homeland Security a couple years ago and did a pretty big enhancement for their security system, technology-wise, in their server system or whatnot. I think that was about $30,000.
I think there's a lot of grant funding out there that we never apply for.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, like open space, which was one of the things mentioned in your impact fee thing. there are grants out there from a lot of these land trusts and everything to buy open space. And I don't think we take advantage of it.
So who's going to be charged with looking into those, would be my next question.
Well, you brought up the idea. I thought Kathy was looking, yeah, you and Kathy looking.
Yeah.
No,
into
we've had
granting.
discussions. We
Oh.
didn't, she has not been, she used to do some grant writing when she worked for the fire
Right.
department.
Yeah.
But searching grants, applying for them, financial reporting for them, like we have for the ARPA grant, the American Rescue Plan Act, it takes time.
Yeah.
And it's time that my department doesn't have right now.
Well,
Then we put it on hold.
yeah. I mean, I don't think you just go and pick someone to write grants. Someone has to be good at writing grants. They have to have done it before or know how to do it. I don't think you just say, well, my department doesn't have time, so pass it on to Sue. Well, Sue's a little busy too, and so is Alex and Chris. Everybody's busy.
Everybody's picking up.
Everybody's picking up slack everywhere. So I would never say, Nathan, you're in charge of grant writing.
They can do it.
Give me the money.
But there are also,
Yeah.
there are people that specialize
Yep,
in
there is.
finding and
Right.
applying for those. So, then it's a function of,
And they get paid a portion of the grant
what's the,
if they're
what's the cost for it?
successful.
And, if it's something that makes sense to subcontract, to sub out like that, then that's fine, because you're gonna give up a little bit on the backside, but on the front side, you still get the work done.
But you still
If it's
come down to the
commission-based, it wouldn't
person of
matter.
who's going to be in charge of it. So that's something we can think about and
Well,
come
it's
up.
something I could research and see if
Yeah.
what I can find.
There are
for
grant writers out there.
When you find time
Yeah.
to do that.
In my spare time, yes.
Yeah.
When I'm wondering.
I mean, I think, as this says, everything should be on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You know,
I say
Is there
And
a
I've-
better way to do what we do? You know?
And I've gotten grants. I've gotten election grants for
Yeah.
us before, so
Yeah.
they aren't, there is an act to writing them, for
I
sure.
mean, I think every department needs to internally look at itself and say, what can I do better? And is there a different way of doing it?
See,
You know?
Nathan, you got a public building coming up. Is there any grants that can help us with that? Look at the look on his face.
Aren't you glad you came tonight?
Yeah, I'm thinking, yeah.
No, it's a, yes, it is money into the town, which is great. It really is.
But when you present the budget to us, they're going to get presented to you, so, and when those are presented, I would like to see that people actually looked at it and just didn't go, okay, inflation's 3.1%, I'm just going to add 3.1% to everything. That's not budgeting to me. That's just math.
Not good.
But I think there ought to be a way of saying, I could be more efficient if I had this, we could cut down on this. That's, to me, how you budget. So, I think too often we just add more money to the current budget and don't actually look at the services and how we apply them. So, anything else? Have I missed anything on the budget?
Oh, schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule is what it is. I think it's, from what I looked at, it looked fine to me.
Yeah. I mean, days may come up or something that one of us can't
Yeah.
make it or whatever, but yeah.
Well, and I thought I would explain why some of the meetings are moved to Wednesdays or Thursdays, and it's around ZBA meetings. We don't know yet if they'll have one.
Right.
So when it gets closer, if we needed to use the Tuesday, we probably could,
Yeah.
but,
I mean, it would be preferable to keep it on the same day, but if we have to move it, we'll,
yeah. That's why February 28th is on a Wednesday, and,
March 7th is a Thursday.
March 7th was a Thursday because that fell in the same week as the comprehensive plan.
okay. I'm trying to find where the dates are.
Where I know.
I know, it's on
Page 86.
86.
Oh, I'm way the wrong way.
Yeah, and I will look at Adobe and see what went awry with the being able to go to documents. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so if you can just send out just the budget schedule.
Yes.
Instead of having to search through everything for it, that would be helpful.
It's right here.
I can do it.
So,
I like Sam. It's right here. He found it.
well, I've got it now.
Yeah, right here.
So if I
I
could
love
print
that.
this to my
If Sam
computer, I'd
can
be all
find it, then we
set.
can all find it.
That's not what I want.
So,
You can just do a print to PDF and
Right.
sell just page 86.
I know, I got that. All right.
Joe, I just texted you a screenshot.
Oh, thank you, thank
You're in
you.
good shape.
Appreciate it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it'll also be
This is a rough
incorporated
crowd
into the
tonight. Holy
calendar.
cow.
What's
It'll
that?
also be incorporated into the town calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And I think it looks fine, so.
Just
yeah.
send him a page.
Yeah, I mean, and you'll send it, it gets sent to the budget committee so that they can, if they've got any major conflicts.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Ch-
It
yeah,
hasn't been
Send
sent to
it to the
You-
chair of the budget committee.
Yeah,
and-
you folks get first dibs at it.
Who is the chair?
Bob
Bob.
Goslin.
Oh, he is again? Okay.
Well, they haven't.
Well, I
the
haven't
first
had their
meeting.
organizational
Oh.
meeting yet.
All right.
All right. So, you all set on that, you think?
Yes.
Really stress to your department heads to think of different ways of doing things.
Outside
And
the
gain
box.
efficiencies.
All right, public comment. Anyone from the public want to say anything? Now's your chance.
We're going to wait on this, the cyber thing, right?
Yep.
Yep, okay.
Selectman comment? Town managers report.
So we've got regular upcoming meetings, January 9th and February 13th, which at least isn't Valentine's Day this year.
Yeah. Hey, I already have January 9th on my
And
calendar.
upcoming holiday closings, because of how Christmas falls, we won't be taking Christmas Day off or Christmas Eve, but we are going to close for half a day this Thursday for our office Christmas party at noon, and we'll be closing Friday, December 22nd at 1 PM for a long weekend for the staff.
So the next selectmen meetings, can we get them back to 5:30, you think?
As long as Sam's not on vacation, yes.
Sam's not allowed to go on vacation anymore?
Well,
Yeah. Note
Come-
to self.
She
Teresa
grad-
likes the late ones. I think we should just want to do a
Would you like me to repeat what I said
I'm
when I
just
walked in
saying,
here?
I
don't
could-
think
This
so.
is almost bedtime,
motion to
Yeah.
continue.
just so
them
you
at
know.
6:30.
It's almost bedtime.
Table it. Sam actually has been accepted to 2 different colleges, so she won't be with us, I don't think, in the fall, and they're not around here. She's still looking, because she graduates, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so, heads up. Can we do a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.